Titan Fitness recently released a new version of their safety squat bar, or SSB, that has some significant improvements. In this video, we're going to do a side-by-side comparison between their new SSB V2 or version 2 and their earlier version. First, let's take a look at some of the major specifications. The earlier version, or the one on the bottom, retails for about $159, has a weight capacity of 700 pounds, weighs in at 45 pounds, and has an overall length of 86.5 inches. The newer V2, the one on top, retails for just under $200 at $192. The weight capacity is more than double the other bar at 1,500 pounds. It weighs in at 61 pounds, and the overall length is 90.5 inches. I put the complete specs for both bars in the description below. As you can see, I've taken the padding off so we can take a closer look at the handles. On the newer V2, the handle comes in two parts. So it comes with a threaded bolt that threads into that upper section right there. So that's the bolt itself. And then there's the grip that's on it. We're going to take a closer look at the grips later on. But it bolts right into that assembly right there. Whereas on the older version, it's just a single piece. And the handles themselves are just a little bit simpler, but easy to grip. So that's the difference in the handle assembly on these two bars. Now let's take a look at the fit and finish on these bars. So as you can see with the V2, it's a nice chrome finish. And there's a brief look at the weld on the first handle and on the second handle. So it's a pretty consistent chrome finish all the way around, all the way over to the plate holder itself. Now let's look at the earlier version. This one has some wear and tear on it for my use. And nice chrome finish. This does have knurling on both sides. I'll show you the other side in a second. No knurling in the center. Now let's take a look at the welds on the version 1 or the earlier version. And over here to the other one. Let's see if we can see it. There you go. Now let's take a look at the knurling on the other side. So basically the chrome plating and fit and finish on both of these bars is almost identical. I wanted to show you the handles side by side. Obviously in the V2 the bar is thicker and it has the little ridges to make it easier to hold, while as the older version does have some texture to it. So if grip makes a difference to you, this is something you need to keep in mind when you're comparing these two bars. Another important specification to keep in mind when you're looking at these two bars is the distance between the handles. On the earlier version, the distance is 15 inches. On the newer V2, it's only 12.75. This will make a big difference to you depending on your shoulder width. In a moment, I'm going to rest each of these bars on my shoulder so you have a better idea of how they might fit for you, because there's a big difference. There's also a difference in the plate holders between these two bars. So if we look at the newer V2 version, you're going to notice that the plate holder is actually welded onto the bar itself. And then on the earlier version, you're going to see that it does spin. That won't make much of a difference unless you're doing movements like good mornings or something like that. So unless your plates fit real tight to the plate holder, there's not much of a difference here. When setting these bars up for the demo, I noticed there was a difference in the level of the plate holders on these bars. So I leveled out the bars, and as you can see here with my little level, the V2 bar is tilted up. The plate holder is tilted up just a little bit, whereas on the earlier version, it's basically the same level as the main body of the bar itself. So this may make a difference in the orientation of your plates on the bar as you get into your heavier squats. I kept the padding off the bars for this shot as well because I really wanted to show you the difference in the angle of the handles and how that impacts where it sits on your shoulders and the kind of pressure it applies. So you notice with no load on this bar, the handles are angled out at about 22 degrees. So you have to press them up a little bit before you begin to experience any weight on the handles. So let's see if I can show you that angle a little bit better. Yeah, from the side here you can see that's about 22 degrees. But if we look at the older version, they're straight down and in line with the camber. So the moment you start to pick them up, you're starting to feel pressure on your handles as well as your shoulders. So I'm going to show you these on my shoulders with the pads here in just a little bit. Now let's take a look at the padding on the V2 bar. This is high density foam padding with a larger diameter to make it more comfortable on the back of your neck, and that same padding flows down into the handles themselves. So that's a look at the padding on the V2 bar. Now let's do a side-by-side comparison with the earlier version. There's no way for me to open up the padding on the earlier version without tearing it apart, and I certainly don't want to do that. But based on the feel, I'm guessing that the composition of the material is either the same or identical. But you can see that there's a significant difference between the diameter and the amount of comfort these two bars are going to provide you while lifting. There's also a noticeable difference in the amount of padding that they've applied to the handles. As you can see, the earlier version is probably about 15 to 20% smaller in diameter and a little bit shorter as well. So if you look at the padding as a whole, it's going to make a big difference in terms of the amount of comfort or discomfort you're going to have as you get into your heavier loads on your squats. One thing you need to keep in mind about the earlier version is the position of the pads and the seams on them. You want to make sure they're turned to the front because they twist rather easily. But I weigh in at about 220 pounds. I'm just a little bit short, shy of 6 foot tall, and this is how it sits on my shoulders. I'm going to say I'm about average in terms of shoulder width, and these pads fall right at the bone at the top of my shoulders. Okay, so, and also you can see how much this is pressing down on the front of my shoulders as opposed to sitting on the top of my shoulders. That's the big difference between the padding or the angle of the handles on these two bars. Now let's see where the V2 sits on my shoulders. The first thing you're going to notice is because the handles are closer together, it doesn't sit on the bone at the top of my shoulders. It sits further up on the traps on my shoulders. You're also going to notice the angle of the handles. They're pressing down more from the top than they are from the front. This can make a big difference depending on how you're built. So let's compare these two bars side by side. So here again, you can see two big differences. Number one, the distance between the handles and where it sits on your shoulders. And also you can see the angle of the handles and how they press down on either your neck or on the front of your shoulders. I've been using the earlier version for some months now, and I notice once I get much above 200 pounds that it really begins to press down on the front of my shoulders and create an awful lot of discomfort. Whereas the newer version presses down more from the top, and there's a lot less discomfort on my shoulders. Obviously, no two people are built the same or the same way I am, which means everybody's going to have a different experience with these two bars. But I'm going to say in general, if you've got the budget, go ahead and spend the additional $40 or $50 and get the newer version of this bar. I've produced a number of other reviews on fitness equipment, so be sure to check them out using the links below. I hope you found this video useful. If so, please press like and share with your friends. If you're not already a subscriber, I would love to have you as a subscriber. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your fitness.